In the spirit of community, we acknowledge that the Mendocino Lake Community College District encompasses the ancestral and present homeland of the indigenous nations of Mendocino and Lake counties, including the Caddo, Comcout, Nomlaki, Pomo, Pit River, Sinkyone, Wailaki, and Yuki. We recognize, honor, and respect these nations as the traditional stewards of the lands and water on which the district is now present. A few announcements before I turn things over to our guests. On November 15th, we have the Native American Heritage Celebration at the college, the main campus in Ukiah. So there will be vendors, food, dancing. It's going to be a wonderful celebration all afternoon in Pomo Plaza. And then 2 days later, on November 17th, the last Native Learning Symposium of the year will take place also on the main campus, and the theme of that panel is language. So without further ado, I'll turn things over to Eric Wilder.
Enmai Aiwa, Eric Wilder, e Kishichima, Kashaya Pomo no Potolbake. Thank you. Your turn. Nice.
Good one.
My name is Eric Wilder. I'm from the Kashaya Pomo people. I wasn't really sure what this was going to be about. I was just told contemporary art, but like anything else, whether it's gathering food or weaving or fishing or dancing or even art, I can't just talk about one thing without talking about everything. Everything is included. I can't talk about one thing, like if I'm going to talk about acorns, I can't talk about acorns without the knowledge of all the baskets, all the respect we have to have for, and prayer we have to have for the plants. All of the teachings that happen when we gather, it's like our classroom. So we got language, we got genealogy, we got history, and the processing of those things covers everything. So I'll try to show you through my art how that takes place. So first of all, I grew up at Kashaya, which is near Sturt's Point on the coast. I wanted to be, growing up, I wanted to be a feather dance singer. That's what I wanted to do. My grandfather was our tribe's feather dance singer, and he was also the person that was designated to gather medicinal plants for people. And so I would see how much respect other tribes, other people had for him, and how much knowledge he had. And I wanted to learn that, so he was teaching me that. My grandparents, my parents, my uncles, aunts, they were teaching me all these things about language and plant uses and our genealogy and our name places and all of that. And then I also had this love for art, and I wanted to be a comic book artist. That's what I wanted to do. But first of all, I wanted to be the feather dance singer. My grandfather said that's what I would be when he passed away. So I had to go through ceremony for that. And I loved learning about our culture and traditional ways. And then when my grandfather passed away when I was 14, my grandmother said that they were not going to be leaving the feather dancing. Long story short about that, it was that she had said through my aunt that nobody was worthy of it. And I thought that I had done something wrong. I didn't follow the rules enough for that. And I didn't question it. I didn't want to ask and hear that told to me that you weren't faithful enough, you didn't follow the rules for that enough. So I didn't ask. And then my grandmother passed away the next year after that. And so I threw myself into my art. I won a scholarship to the Native Arts Institute in New Mexico. And it was a 4-year scholarship. And the summer before I was going to go, my father got hurt working construction. He was a heavy equipment operator, and they were building the Lake Sonoma Dam. And he hurt his back. He was paralyzed, and They claimed that he got hurt on a previous job, different employer, and so they were refusing him workers' comp. And so I had to go to work. I couldn't, they had no way to pay for food or utilities or anything. So I had an opportunity to go to work at the state parks. First of all, I was not going to be the singer anymore. That was not going to happen. And now my art, what I wanted to do, that was not going to happen. And so I quit. I quit drawing. Sometimes somebody would ask me to design a t-shirt or a logo once in a while, but I never drew for myself anymore. But then I decided, I tried to go to the San Jose Junior College, and I took a design class. And the one thing I was able to do while I was there is I created a logo. I'll show you this. Let's see if I can. So I had done this logo, and it was an EW like this. And I had it sitting on my desk. And the teacher came up and he saw it at an angle, and he says, "Oh, that's great. That just looks just like it fits you," he said. And I go, "Well, I know it's supposed to be like this." He goes, "No, look like this." He goes, "It looks like a basket design." And that says you're an artist. That says it looks like something from who you are. He said, and I'm like, that's my first and only really cool lesson I learned from him as a designer, an art teacher to student, was to look at things in that creative way. And so I wanted to, so this is that's the E, the W. That was originally how I started out, and then this eventually became my logo. Okay, so this was only like a year after my grandmother had passed away. And she had made a bunch of movies on acorn processing, on men's dances, the women's dances, doctoring, acorn processing, and those were known all over. And once they found out that she was my grandmother, the anthropologists were sending their students over to ask me questions about my grandmother and grandfather, and I'm like, I don't want to talk about them. I was like in mourning because of it, because I just, that whole part of my life felt like it was ripped away, but they were relentless, and I'm like, finally, I can't enjoy learning art. They just keep bugging me about my grandmother and about my people, and I'm like, I don't really want to talk about that anymore right now, And so finally, I just I can't do this, and I left. And so I ended up working for the state parks. And then I worked one night with the ranger, and they did where they work with the campers that are coming in and talking about the history of the park and everything. And I got to tell stories about my people, about the area. And I'm like, I want to do this. I want to be a ranger. I want to do this interpretive work. So I applied. Then I get this response back from the state, and said, you can't be a ranger because your eyesight isn't good enough to carry a sidearm. And I'm just like, what the hell kind of break am I ever going to get? So I quit drawing, and I ended up working for Fireman's Fund Insurance, doing filing and stuff. And then my daughter was born, and my mom came to stay with us for the first couple of weeks to teach us about this is what's happening with your daughter when she's crying. It could be this or this is how teaching us how to be parents. And she liked books, and so I went to get her some books, and I ended up at this store that said books on it, is all it said. And I went in, it was a comic book store. And this guy I talked to, he had a contest for that you could draw superheroes, and there was different age groups, and you can win percentage off of comics. And I told him, yeah, in high school I was working with this guy every Wednesday, and he was a colorist for Marvel Comics, and he was teaching me about color theory, and in them days they didn't have computer coloring. It was all with markers and Q-tips and airbrushes, and that passion just came back talking to this guy for a couple hours. And so I was like, I want to draw. So I went to the art store, bought me some paper and some watercolors and pens and stuff, and I was doing this art contest, and I won every week for almost a year and a half. And I'll show you some of those pieces that I did. I still save those. So here's the comic book art that I did. Oh, that's not right. I'm trying to get back. Oh, wow. All right. I need to start this over. Hold on. Let's go here. Comic book art. Please work. No, it's not working. Okay. I will go down to here. This is, and you can see these are the comic book, some of the comic book pieces I did hung in the store. And these are done with pen and ink, and they're colored with airbrush watercolors. So there I just dipped them in and colored them that way. Because that's what when I was helping this guy, his name was Steve Olaf, working for Marvel Comics, that's what he colored with. He just painted with airbrush colors, and they're more vibrant than regular watercolors. And so this is what I worked at. He never told me that you need to learn how to draw hands. He would just say, this is what you need to work on, but never show me, let me learn on my own. And so I did this, and then after, geez, I guess probably a year, I went to, let's see if this works. No, it's not working. I went to the store after work, and the guy at the comic book store said, here's a business card. These guys came back and they're looking for an artist to work for their company. He said, so they want to talk to you. They've seen your art hanging in the stores. Like, okay, I'll call them. So I called them, went over there, and they said, we're a video game company, and we want you to do a tryout. We're doing this dinosaur baseball game, and we want you to animate this character for us. And I said, okay. Oh, don't tell me that thing actually works. Let's see. Let's see if it works. So I did this animation of this baseball character, this batter, and he said, do it in 8 frames. I said, okay. And I didn't know how to animate. Like, I'm not an animator. Why would I do that? You know. And so he let me do it. I did it. I stayed up all night drawing it. Took it back to work, to his work, to the office there, and I said, here you go. And he said, didn't I tell you had 2 weeks to work on this? And I go, no, you didn't. But I said, but here, I took this big picture that was on my wall, and I took the plexiglass out of it, stuck it between 2 tables, and put a lamp under it so I could kind of fashion a light table. And I did this animation. I said, you know, I'm not an animator, really. I'm just guessing on how this will even look. So he goes, okay, well, we'll process it, and I'll give you a call, and we'll put it in the game. You can come look at it. And he handed me a check for $250. And in '95, that was a lot of money for me, you know. And so I waited. Like 3 weeks, and I was kind of hoping they would call me, and I'm like, wow, why would they call me? I'm not an animator. I'm not, you know. So he called me and said, yeah, we got it in the game. I want you to take a look at it. And so I did. And it looked pretty good. I thought it looked pretty good for somebody that doesn't know how to animate. So all these batters, I drew the pictures, I animated. I did all the 2D animations for those. And then he said, I want to talk to you in my office. I said, okay. He goes, and he handed me an envelope. We'd like to offer you the job as lead animator for our company. So I opened it up, at Fireman's Fund, I was making $15,000 a year as doing filing. The letter said, we want to offer you $70,000 a year as an animator. And I just out loud, I said, what? He goes, I'm sorry. He goes, we're a startup company and we can't afford to pay you what animators get. And I'm like, they get more than this? Holy. So I ended up doing that, and we did another game called Gen War for Sega Genesis, and of all the games I did, that was like the game that was most special to me, because I didn't really do a lot on that game, but when they showed me the character designs, I was looking through them and I go, did Ernie Chan draw these? And Ernie Chan was an artist, he's a Filipino artist that drew Conan the Barbarian for Marvel Comics. And I said, this looks like Ernie Chan's work. And he goes, I don't know. My boss said, I don't know, I'll call Sega and find out. And so about a few days later, he goes, yeah, some guy named Ernie Chan drew those. And I'm like, what do you mean, some guy? I said, that guy's like the man for me, you know. And then I saw him about 4 or 5 years later, and I talked to him and I said, you remember that Gen War game you did the character designs? I said, I was working for that other company, and when we animated all that stuff for it, I said, I knew that was your work. I said, and I talked to him for about 15 minutes. And I never saw him again for about 4 years after that. And I went with my friend to another comic book convention in San Francisco. And we were walking up and about where that screen is over there. And he saw me. He goes, Eric, hey Eric, how you doing? Come over here. He goes, I'm like, oh my God, Ernie Chan remembered my name. That was so cool. I was like, oh, man, you know, my heart was beating. And he introduced me to some of these other artists that I had seen their names in comics, you know, but I'm like, okay, you know what, if I ever get to be like well known for my art, that's what I want to be like. I want to be able to be welcoming and share and let them meet other artists, and because that was like the coolest experience ever, you know. And so for me, let's see if I can get this going. The company went out of business, and then I get a call. I was doing game testing for a company called Broderbund, and this guy called me from this company called Big 8 Production. He goes, can I talk to you? I want to see if you want to come work with us. So I said, yeah. And they were in the same suite of the other gaming company I was working with, and those are all employees that were former employees of LucasArts. And so he says, I want you to do level design for us. And I'm like, I don't know how to do level design. He goes, oh, you know, we play games together. We think you'd be good at it. Okay, well, if you think I could do it, I'll give it a shot, you know. He goes, okay, so what are you working on? He goes, I can't tell you unless you sign a contract. So I did. He goes, we're working on Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. And I'm like, what? So I signed the thing. He goes, well, can you come in tomorrow? I go, yeah. So we went down to the ranch, and they had this set with all of these buildings in it, and we couldn't take pictures, so we had to sketch everything. And then we brought it back and we built these levels. And we developed this one Jedi guy walking around as a test, and we sent it to them, and they go, oh, this looks great, but this building here is Tatooine, this building here is a building that's on Naboo, and this is Coruscant. And so we were like, oh, okay. So then we had to like separate it all. Once we got all of the whole thing, but I got to go down to LucasArts. They had this sealed off room in there that had all the daily footage. So it was weird to see all the footage from every day that they filmed without the special effects in it, you know. So I remember when they said the one thing, they said, if George Lucas is walking around in here, you are not to talk to him. I'm like, what? Yes, you don't, unless he talks to you, you don't talk to him. I'm like, I'm going to talk to him. I'm not an employee here. But I never saw him. But I was actually at the mall one day, and I was in the toy store, and this guy walks by me with these two girls, and he's about this tall. And I looked at him like, that's George Lucas. I'm like, whoa, he looks bigger than life, but in person he's like that tall. So anyway, I said hi to him. He was very friendly, introduced me to his daughters, and I told him I worked on that game. But it was cool. It was so funny though. One thing that's really cool is their Halloween parties, man, because they make these elaborate costumes. I don't know if you remember Aliens. Sigourney Weaver at this one part, she's on the ship and she's in this suit that's like lifts heavy equipment that she walks around in. Somebody built one of those. I thought it was the real thing. It was really cool. And somebody built an Iron Giant. It's an animated movie. Somebody built one of those. I'm like, they were outside one of their conference rooms, and I'm like, wow, what are you guys making those games? Like, oh no, there's a Halloween costume. So I'm like, dang. But yeah, there's some cool people. Imagine the people that work there. But this is, of course, this is back in the 90s, so, it's all choppy, But this is what the game looked like. I got to build that level right there. I got to design some of the puzzles, like hitting that thing to open something, to get to another place, to open another place, and to get it through that level. But, yeah, this was a lot of fun. But anyway, from not knowing anything, I got a chance to work in this industry, the video game industry, and learn about character designing. I got to do storyboarding, animating. I got to do concept art. I got to do some voice acting too. But that's the one good thing about working with a small company, because if you work for a big company like Sony or Sega, they stick you doing one thing and that's all you do. You do that one cog all the time. But in a small company, you have to fill in and do all kind of different things. So that was cool. I got to do game testing there too. But I got to do Celebrity Deathmatch, and I got to animate Mr. T, and Anna Nicole Smith. We got to be on a phone call with Anna Nicole Smith. I don't know if you guys all know who Anna Nicole Smith was. But what you saw of Anna Nicole Smith, that's what she was like in person too. She was crazy. She was just bigger than life, and yeah, she just was out there. Never held anything back. She was a lot of fun. But all the moves that are in there, she wanted those moves that we did, and I got to animate those. I don't know if you guys know Motley Crue. So Tommy Lee was one of the characters in here, and they said, we want you to animate Tommy Lee, but you need to do the skin for it. So he's covered with tattoos. So I had to draw and paint the tattoos that would go around his frame after they built the 3D frame. I had to paint those tattoos to lay over that. That took me like 2.5 weeks to do. And they didn't have the reference, so I had to go online and find different pictures of him, and from different angles, and figure out all the tattoos he had. And so we finished it. They sent it to him to look at, and then he wanted to be on a conference call with us. And he goes, "Oh, it looks great. It looks great. You got it all." He goes, "Just one thing. I got a new tattoo." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to redo it all and paint it over again." I'm like, "Oh man." That took 2.5 because I had to do another 2.5 weeks to do it because he had another tattoo. But they were all fun to work with. And I thought Mr. T was big. He's about that tall. And I'm like, wow. But you know, when you see him, you think he's just this huge, enormous guy. But yeah, he was short too. But that game was a lot of fun. And then I got to do this game, Simpsons Wrestling. This was the worst game I got to work on because there's Fox Interactive, who has the rights to The Simpsons. But then Matt Groening, the creator, also for his company has rights to the characters too. The Fox Interactive wanted a 2D game, and then we did this one test of 3D in 3D, and they wanted me to build Moe's Tavern, and I had only ever watched one episode of The Simpsons. I never watched it before. So my first thing with this game, I got to sit and watch The Simpsons. All was 10 seasons of The Simpsons. And then from those, I had to draw and figure out where everything goes in Moe's Tavern, and built it. But the funniest thing is like Hank Azaria, who does the voice for Moe. We had 3 takes of their lines in the game, and everybody had one good take, and then there was like, that one's okay, it's all right. Hank Azaria is the most amazing voice actor. Every take of his was so funny. We just die laughing. They were all good. We're like, well, which one are you going to use? Because they were different, but they were all funny. He's really good, a really good voice actor. But I got to work on this game, building this. But I had no idea about The Simpsons, other than I knew who Bart was, and Homer. That was it. Let's see if any of this works. And then these are just some concept art that I got to do, character designing for some of the game levels. So this is actually working. Okay, so then this is another one. Depending on the design doc, they want full color renderings, they want just black and white. But each character you had to do these model sheets with different expressions and stuff on them. But anyway, that was my video game career. I had a friend who came right at the end of that 5-year career I had there. And he was just out of animation school. His name was Chad Okamoto. And they asked me to work with him. I'm like, well, he's trained. I just learned on the job. And they go, yeah, but he didn't know how to become the character, so I had to show him how to use a camera and act out the character and all that stuff. And then use that as your reference. And so things like that. Real world stuff for him. But we became instant friends. Really good friends. And I tell this story because it's like, I was there. He was there a month, but before he came, I was always the first one at work. And we were talking after he was there a month. He went back. He goes, I got to get something. He came back out. He had this box, and he opened it up. Had his business cards. He just got his business cards. A Chad Okamoto animator. And I said, I want one of those. He goes, but I work with you. He said, I know, but that's a big deal, and I want one. I want to have one. I want to be the first one to have one. So I took it, and I put it in my wallet, and I took it home, and I had like a card, plexiglass thing, and I put it in and put it up in my office at home. And I said, you pissed me off. I said, because before you, I was always the first one at work, and now you're always here before me. And so he was saying, I can't believe I get paid to draw. Like, yeah, I know, right? I said, I know. I never ever had that feeling where I went to a job and it didn't feel like work. I said, you get paid to do what you love. I said, I'd love other people to feel this. And, And so we went away, and then Monday I came to work, and he wasn't there, and I'm like, oh man, I beat him to work. Finally, and I'm going to give him such a bad time when he comes in. About 10 o'clock comes along, and our boss says, I need to talk to you guys in the office, or in the conference room. He goes, I got bad news. He goes, Chad passed away over the weekend. He was playing street hockey with his brothers and friends, and he said, and his heart exploded, and he just died instantly. I guess he had a heart condition they knew about, but we didn't know about. But he died. And right from there, I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do art for myself. So I ended up from there getting a job with my tribe. I got elected to be the tribal chairman of my tribe. And then after that, I worked for them and used my art, and I ended up using the traditional knowledge I had to help with language preservation. And so I developed like these coloring books with language in it, websites, bookmarks, brochures, with all this traditional knowledge, how to teach about baskets and how to teach about language. And all these different images about plant uses. And I felt like I came full circle at that point to use all this knowledge that I had. I'd learned all this art knowledge, and now I had all this traditional knowledge beforehand, and I was able to use that. And so that's what I did. That's what I was able to do. It felt amazing. And these are greeting card designs that I do. There are bird designs, basket designs, people, different kind of people, villages and plants and flicker feathers, but on the back of those cards it has all descriptions so that people can be able to learn from it. And I do clocks. I could do clocks, and first I did them in different tribes' languages, but okay, so I have Kashaya clocks, but nobody from Hopland or nobody from, Grayton, they don't want that. It's not their language. So I just do with the designs and let everybody know that if you want a clock in your language, I just need your numbers from 1 to 12, and I can do this for you so that you can give that to somebody, or remember how to say those words. But I know I'm over my 20 minutes, but so I'll end there. But I just want you to know that from all of this experience, I got to work with Mio on a talent project in Mendocino. And I think the biggest compliment I had from Mio was she wanted to do greeting cards, and she asked me if it was okay. And I'm like, why are you asking me that? Of course it's okay. I'm like, I'm like, with my art, I see other people that want to do cards, they want to do stickers, they want to do other stuff. And sometimes they feel like, I don't want to step on his toes. And I'm like, no, I'm glad that I can, let me help you. Let me help you figure out how to do that, because I do a Native Arts Expo every year, and I bring artists from all different types of art. And I want them to meet each other. I want people to meet all of us and see the things that we can do. We have beaters and basket weavers and illustrators and painters and poets and singers and you name it, culinary artists. And the one thing I want is people to see that we love art. We're not just traditional artists. We also love art. I got to do a comic once, finally. But that's what I love to do. I love to do superheroes and science fiction kind of stuff too. But when I show that to people, they look at me like, this isn't native. And I'm like, I want to break that wall. I want to break that wall for all of my native artists too, to be accepted as artists. And that's the wall that is right there sometimes. But then we are exclusive. We have knowledge that a lot of people don't have about our people. And we want to bring that to everybody so that you have a greater appreciation for where you live, because we've been here for thousands of years, and there's this history that happened. History didn't start after contact. It was here already. And for you, I think, to better appreciate that is to know that. And that's what I do. It's what we all do with our art. So, thank you.
Okay.
The Zoom chat is giving you hearts and wows and super cools and all that stuff. So just to let you know, they're participating over here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's actually Corinne next. Oh, okay, that's.
It's a slide. It's a slideshow.
Oh, oh, you
No, I'm not talking about yours. is. No, not really. It's just from the art exhibit.
Oh,
Irimachi, Keshi Corinne Pierce, Ana Picabitante, Kekesil Ana. So I'm Corinne, and I'm from the Redwood Valley Rancheria. I have ancestry from Lake and Mendocino County, and I'm a basket weaver. I also got very little instruction about what we were talking about today other than contemporary art. So I did not plan to talk about myself very much at all. What I did plan to talk about was what is contemporary art from a Native viewpoint. And I've been doing art for a long time, but something that Jacob Metters said a couple of years ago really struck me because I'm often considered a traditional artist, which makes me happy and mad at the same time, because yes, I am a traditional artist. I make traditional baskets. I also make contemporary baskets that are a different kind of thing, you know? But Jacob Metters said, if you are alive and you are indigenous and you are making art, you are making contemporary indigenous art no matter what medium you're using. And that was very impactful for me. So I'll just talk about myself real quick before I get to this slideshow. So I started weaving when I was 9, and I always knew I wanted to be a weaver. It was just gonna happen. And I had a dream when I was 9 about my great-grandmother, and she told me that I could do it, so just do it, basically. So then I just did it. I harvested willow. I started weaving that day, and I have not stopped since then. I grew up in a very artistic home. My mother was extremely good at drawing, and she also could make anything. And that's something that I want to say about indigenous artists. And I'll just start with the line I always start. Pomo baskets are the best baskets in the world at any time in human history. And they come from our hands and from our minds. And Sherry Smith Ferry always says that she believes that all of us have a touch of OCD. And I'm thankful for that. Mio, Eric, Robin, Silver, all of these artists that I can think of, these contemporary artists, they don't just have one medium. They are masters of many, and they can see it and pick it up and do it, which I think is an amazing trait. And I don't know all that much about the non-Indigenous art community. And I'm actually going to say something that I said at the media panel that we had at your art expo. I'm the newest, well, I'm not the newest member of the Art Center at Ukiah anymore. We just hired a man. Yeah. So he's our first dude, but I'm still the youngest, and I'm the only person of color. And we had this 24-hour art, like, you know, paint till you drop, or whatever your art is till you drop. And so I'm there helping in the morning and bringing stuff. And this lady is dropping names to me, and I don't know them. And she was like, "Oh, are you new to the area?" And I was like, "Can you name any indigenous artist from here?" Any. No, they couldn't. And then, like I said there, I realized we're running in parallel lives. Like, most of what we do is running parallel and just kind of crossing each other every once in a while. So in my journey of being an artist, I didn't really think that I was an artist. A lot of the baskets that I made are utilitarian, so cradle baskets, work baskets. And then PBS called me and said, we're doing, I don't know if any of you guys watch The Craft in America. I love Craft in America. So I was already excited. And they were like, we are doing a special episode about California artists. And would you do that? I was like, heck yes, I'll do that. Come and let's talk about baskets. And so I can say Pomo baskets are the best basket in the world again, on film, again. I'm going to keep saying it over and over again. And so they came up and they did this documentary. And if you watch it, I bawl my eyes out. And the reason is, it was in 2017. and they filmed it on my reservation, and that was the Mendo Complex fire. So we lost, like, my basket garden was burnt up. We lost 20% of our housing. We had to put guards down on the road because people just wanted to drive up to our neighborhood and look at the burnt out houses on the reservation. So I'm bawling my eyes out. But anyway, it was still good. And I still didn't really think that what I was doing was art, because I kind of turned my nose up at art a little bit. I was like, oh, it's got to have a use. And then it was nominated for the United States Artist Fellowship. And I had to get all these support letters, and I had to write all this stuff. And I was like, hey, wait, I might actually be an artist. Let me think about that. So then that really changed the way that I looked at what I did as art. I have always taught people how to weave. It's always been important to me to create other artists, I guess. Like I always say, my job as a weaver is to make more weavers, not more baskets. So I decided that I wanted to curate art. I wanted to curate Indigenous art because I know amazing artists. Like, I can just name so many. How many did you have? 50 at the, yeah, 50 Indigenous artists got together, you know, like I can name a lot, but not very many other people could, even if they're from here. And that upset me. So I just put that intention into the universe, and then it happened really, really quickly. And what came together was an art exhibit in Middletown that was about, it focused on weaving, but it also was going to end in an exhibit of Indigenous art. And it was the first art exhibit in Lake County of Indigenous art curated by an Indigenous person. We're in the 2020s. It's pretty shameful. I mean, it's amazing, yay. We're having a lot of firsts, but it was really, really great. And I want to share some of that art because I have a feeling that, how many of you guys got to see it? It was cool, awesome. Right? It was awesome. And we had over 500 kids from the school districts come and get we had docents that were Indigenous people from Lake County or were artists in that show talking about what we were representing and what is this art and what is it saying. And it was really an amazing experience. I think it was really healing for Lake County. And I know that it's had an impact because they're still doing discussions about that impact. Like they recently had one at the Gibson Museum about the impact that's had on Indigenous artists that were in that show. So that was really cool. So we're gonna go through these. I can do the buttons. I can press the buttons. Okay, so this is the wonderful meal. And I'm not gonna talk about that, but just wanna reiterate something that Eric said, that when Native people create art, it is our unique viewpoint. And we have knowledge that ties us to where we are in a very instinctual, base way. Like our beliefs are that, you know, we're made from this land, from these plants, from these rocks that are here. And we interpret that in a certain way that most non-Native people wouldn't. It is a different viewpoint, and representation really matters. When I teach anything, plants, medicine making, basket weaving, traditional fire knowledge, I'm teaching it because I want people to love what I love. Because I believe that people protect what they love. And if you don't even know that it's here, how are you going to protect it? So that's my goal. All right. Do I have to use the mouse?
You have to,
all right.
Yeah.
Get out of the way, get out of the way.
Okay. So we had baskets from contemporary weavers. This is a big deal. Most places that you go and you see pomo baskets, those are heritage baskets. That means they were collected by usually non-Indigenous people. Sometimes it doesn't even say who the weaver was. And that's what you see, and especially with pomo baskets, you rarely get to see that we are still here and we're still weaving. We're still making utilitarian baskets. We're still making fancy baskets. One of these is mine. The other one, Neo, do you know? Oh, the other one is Patty's. So the cradle basket is a Lake County style, and Patty is also from Lake County, so she had a lot of art there. Okay. So this is archival inkjet print and mixed media on paper, so it was collage. And she had a couple of photographs, and I love the way that this looks. Like she explained it. You can actually go online, and all of the artist talks were recorded, so you can hear what she has to say about it. But my sister also did photography. She went to the Academy of Art College in San Francisco to do photography, and she wrote a screenplay that actually was filmed and has been shown. It's called Firewalker. So I did grow up in a really artsy family. I'm the only one that didn't go to art school. My oldest sister went to art school in London. I stayed home and wove baskets. Okay, this is another one of her mixed media prints. And she was, she's from Southern California, and one of the things that she was really talking about was how Spanish culture forced indigenous people to wear this mask to hide who they were. And that, it all tied in with the last photo, but that's why I picked this, because a lot of us feel that. And I was talking to her, and she was saying, when do you stop pretending, and you've either lost your culture or you just don't fit in anymore. And it was really impactful for me. So this is from Ryan Young, and he is from the East Coast, and I really love this. I don't know if you can see that, but it says my gender is indigenous over the front of this. And me and Mio are trying to rush out of here to go down to an art opening for Two Spirit folks, and Ryan does a lot of work about blood quantum and gender fluidity and Two Spirit. And one of the men that's going to be at that Two Spirit opening tonight came and he saw this, and I actually have a picture of him looking at this picture, and it's one of my favorite pictures that I have, and this was just really amazing. I really love Ryan. So this is Keli, and he had never shown before. In fact, nobody really knew that he did art. I knew because we're friends on Facebook, and I was like, hey, I really like that. Can you come and we'll print it and put it? And he did, and he actually got an internship during this exhibit as part of the grant funding for it, and he still is an intern at the Middletown Art Center, and he teaches, what is it called? Character drawing. So I'm really, really proud. We have new people coming up representing the culture that they grew up in, whether you understand it or not, which is what I like. So this is another one of Keli's. Okay, these are some more contemporary baskets. I think all of these ones are mine. And then this, mine. Okay, so this is Allie Metter's Night, and she had baskets and she had paintings. She does many different kinds of art, and she also teaches tech. She's a master tech practitioner. She uses her paintings to teach about forest restoration and riparian restorations. It's really, really amazing. And this is another one of her work trays. And Wanda Quidquid, who's going to be on my radio show on Monday, does these amazing gourd art. And she's always inspired by really old patterns, old basket patterns. And the rabbit, I think she said, was influenced by some Southwestern patterns. But she's going to be on the radio and talk about that. There's some videos of her talking about this art exhibit, and she actually has been doing a ton of art. So over in Lake County, I don't remember the name of the new park, they're building, was it?
Covington.
Oh, cool. No, so easy. They're building a park bench that shows all the oaks and some other species. So she's been doing a lot of work since this exhibit and before. And of course, they're all in the same family, Wanda and Mio, so they had an art family too. Okay, so these are some more of her gourds. They're so beautiful. They're so beautiful. This is an Indian on a bike. I own this piece because I love it so much, because I ride my bike a lot. So I am the Indian on a bike. But I love that Jacob, this is Jacob who I quoted earlier, he said something that I also think is very true, that Indigenous artists use whatever medium they need to use to tell the story they want to tell right then. And if it's a different story later, then it's a different medium later. So he has a few of these, and this is the only one that I bought, but I really love them. And they're just Indians doing everything, everyday stuff, like Indian in a business suit, Indian on a bike. Just so you can normalize seeing them doing normal things. So, Cigar Indian, which I like. Okay, so this is another one by Ryan, and it's called Blood Quantum is a Heterosexual Construct. And a lot of people don't understand blood quantum. It's very, very complex. And the background of this is how the government figures out the math. And it's ridiculous. There's a it's not a radio, it's a podcast called Love in the Time of Blood Quantum, which all the kids are listening to. I heard it from the high school kids. Just so you know, you can check that out. Okay, so this is Kenneth Keyes, and it is The Teacher. And this was a point of contention, actually, with me and the art director of Middletown, because I wanted it, and she thought it was a little too on the nose of representing. But here's the thing. Most of you guys can recognize Sitting Bull. Most of you guys know what Geronimo looks like because they've been used in pop art. You don't see Elsie Allen and Mabel McKay in pop art, and this is the closest I'm getting. And this is impactful for me. So it was actually one of the first ones to sell. So he painted this, and he changed the little girl to his granddaughter. So it really is I love this piece. It's very beautifully done. It's really simple, but it really tells a very deep story about who we are as a people and how we see ourselves. And I'm trying to hurry. So this is the colonizer's tool. This again is from Ryan and has his card, and it shows his blood quantum and how they figure that out. More baskets. So this is my sister, Jacqueline. She is a nurse. She draws hearts of all kinds. She's always drawing anatomical, like uteruses and stuff. She's just a crazy person. But this is just one of them. This is the Heart of Flight. There's one that's in the art center right now. This she made for my birthday. It's called the Basket Weaver's Heart. And I absolutely love this piece. Eric, he just,
Wait,
we
can you
tell.
go back to the heart? How do you spell your last name?
Oh, wow.
Graumann. That was my name. So Eric, this is Monique Sinoqui, and she is another artist that does lots of mixed media. This is Eric. This is one of my favorite ones. I'm gonna save up and buy this someday. But we tell stories. Me and Eric end up telling stories together a lot. We talk a lot about singers and clappers, and I love, this is the story. This is so beautiful. I always tell him, I follow him like a groupie. When he's gonna tell a story, I'm like, ooh, tell the one about the songs in the water. No, tell the one about the birds in the roundhouse. I just always want to hear them. So a lot of these you can find online, but I just wanted to say that everybody, all these Indigenous people are alive. They are making art. We are continuing to make art, and we are mentoring young people to make art, to express who they are. So that's what I wanted to say. And if you guys have any questions, you can ask me.
So what station is your radio show
It's on KZYX, but it also is a podcast, so you can look up good ancestors and local treasures.
Okay.
Everybody here has been on it. And I think that's it. So that's Eric. But that was all I wanted to say, that contemporary art is happening and we're still here. And my goal with being on the Art Center board and still curating art exhibits is to make all of these indigenous noted artists known in the community, because they're an amazing resource and they're overlooked too much. Woo!
You have a book.
Oh, I have a book. I made this book.
Well, a book. She's a writer.
I have this book. I'm working on the second one. Mia's helping. I'm gonna draw because she's the best drawing instructions ever. So that's all I have to say.
And what's the,
Oh.
sorry, what's the show you're going to tonight?
The show that we're trying to get to tonight starts right now. It's called Roles, Rules, and Responsibilities, Two Spirit Weavers of Northern California. It's 3 different basket weavers. One is Pomo, one is Karuk and Shasta, and the other is Mountain Maidu. And it's actually kind of a broad range of weavers. One's 20 something, one's 30 something, and the other's 50 something. So it's kind of interesting what they're going to talk about. It's one of our best friends. So yeah, the 50 something year old, the 20 and 30
They speak a different language.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. They had a big conversation about gay or two-spirit. It was an interesting conversation. So hi, my name is Mia Marufo. I am Eastern Pomo from the Robinson Rancheria. I'm a citizen of Robinson Rancheria. And I, professionally, I am an environmental director. I sit on as Central California representative for US EPA and California State representative on the National Tribal Caucus for US EPA. So my art is very environmentally driven. I started doing my art and I'm going to flip through some slides, but how much time do I have? Because they pretty much ate it all. But
You know what, we go until 4:30, but we have always go long, so,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start talking like, no, I'm just joking. Just joking. I started drawing I call them finger doodles, in 2014. I've always done art, but started drawing my digital art in 2014. This phone with my finger. It's a free app called Sketch. And I actually started drawing in a pollinator protection plan meeting. I drew a bee and posted it online. So normally what I'll do is I'll take a picture of all of you guys and I'll say, oh, was here and we talked about this, this, and this. This time I said, well, I'll draw a bee, put it on there and talk about the meeting. And then I started getting more requests on, oh, can you draw a dragonfly? Oh, can you draw this and this? And became people's personal artist, I guess, I don't know. Started drawing kind of, I always tell people my cards either describe a bird, a basket, design, or the mindset. I post all my work on Facebook and Instagram. If you want to friend request me on Facebook, if you want to interact, if you just want to look at my work, Instagram, it's Mio Marufo. It's nothing crazy like Salami Girl 404. It's me. I'm pretty straightforward about my art. So this is these are posts that go along with my art. So tonight I finished the butterfly pattern. There are 2 butterfly designs represented in the basket drawing. When you look at the upper pattern near the rim, it's obviously butterfly wings, but the other pattern is more subtle. It's actually the dots on the wings. So I started getting a lot more requests on deconstructing basket designs, on talking about the nature and the origin of these different designs. I was on a flower kick, so that's echinacea in the background. This is the deer design. So today is the deer design. The design comes from the deer hooves. Imagine walking and seeing the bichet tracks in the mud, and then seeing the tracks in the shape. Basket designs mean different things in different areas. So this one stacked is actually a sturgeon back up north, but for us it's a deer hoof. Deer hoof. Willow gatherer. I guess I don't need to read it. You guys can read it. But I use my art as a mechanism to kind of bring issues forward or talk about what's going on environmentally. This is a short version. I actually used this for a PowerPoint on traditional ecological knowledge in climate change, federal policy decision making. And so this was actually a starter image for that conversation. I also showed something similar to this presentation recently at the 30 by 30, which is 30% emissions reduction and protection of the land by the year 2030. It's a new initiative here in California, so that we can survive climate change. So, red-winged blackbird tries out his winter charm to lure her in. Will it be the basket or the mistletoe or the basket? I talk a lot about birds. I recently spoke at the Berkeley Bird Festival a couple weeks ago and talked to them about different bird designs, but also our use of birds in our baskets. So I'm from Lake County. We're feather basket people. We make feather baskets in Lake County and in Southern Como also. And people often go, oh, you guys wiped out all the birds. And I like to counter that with the American fedora. The 80% of the American men wore fedoras, in the early mid 1900s, and it actually wiped out 80% of the flicker birds in the United States. So, and it also wiped out the tricolored red-winged blackbird, because those 3 little flicker tails were held on by his little shoulder. So, anyways, maybe cold outside, but spring is coming, and made me think of the flowers we will have. Tonight, calendula is both healing and beautiful. Coil basket with woodpecker feathers. I guess each picture must lead into the other, or maybe basket designs are rolling around in my head. Tonight is the flying goose design. So this is the Miwok basket dance. It's actually it's when the women used to bring acorn into the roundhouse, and they would fill the basket with acorn mush, and they would dance the tables. So the tables are kind of lined up here, and the women would meet and then back up, and they would bless the acorn for the fall harvest. And then this is, I haven't posted finger doodles in a while after drawing a farewell card for my mother. It has been a little rough to find inspiration. A friend asked me for a finger doodle depicting motherhood and breastfeeding. I thought, what a beautiful start for healing, drawing new life. This may offend you, it may not. This is real, and this is life. This was actually for the Native American Wellness Breastfeeding Conference. And then tonight, amidst the continuous news and feelings of unsureness, maybe we need to stop worrying for just a moment and lift our hearts in prayer. From my family to yours, we pray as a family for our extended families that you are all safe and have the opportunity to let Creator embrace all of us in these trying times. This is actually a picture that my aunt took of my grandmother, and I drew the red rose behind it, which is the wild red rose. So my grandmother's name is Red Rose. And for years, we thought it was the English rose. Because of course, we're colonized, you know, what do you see? You see red roses, you picture a single stem given, you know, here, I love you. That's not what it is. It is actually, the red rose is the wild rose. It's a bright, bright pink. It grows along the roads. There's two colors, there's white and there's red. Red because it is the different shades of blood. So pink is actually a shade of blood, so it's considered red. Shades of purple are blues, and so those are more skies. And then we danced under the stars at Kashaya, the strawberry. The whole day and night, I kept looking up at this beautiful sky. The fog rolled in, and then suddenly the stars twinkled as the fire burned and the trees surrounded us in an embrace. They recently redid the roof on the Kashaya Roundhouse, and that's without the roof. The helper, he's helping. So, okay, so this is boarding school survivor. And I often thought I hurt my grandmother's feelings. I always wanted to know what happened at boarding school. She never talked about it. I would ask and she would tell me, you don't want to talk about that, and shush me. But then sometimes she would give me peeks into her experience. They split us up, you know. I never did see them. Older girls were in a different room, and we never did get to talk with the boys. Sometimes, she smiled slightly crooked, they would take turns kicking the ball over the fence, and whoever brought it over could say hello and hold hands before the woman caught us and made us move away from the fence. She lowered her voice into a whisper and she said, sometimes it was my sister. I'm the granddaughter of a boarding school survivor, and I posted this in 2021 during the boarding school, the orange shirts. And I actually posted a couple of different stories, and I took this story to the Deborah Holland kind of truth and healing about boarding school survivors and the impact of boarding schools on our children, on us. This is actually a story that my grandmother had told me when we were going to a powwow at the Stewart's Indian School in Nevada, where my grandmother was located. And she had two brothers and one sister, and our families don't know each other. We're entirely separated because they were released at different times. And I say released in a very real way, very much so like jail. My grandmother was released when she was 14 years old, and she got married at 15. She was released when her father died. She was allowed to attend the funeral, and she ran away. That was the reality of what boarding school was. This is a sweet story that kind of catches your throat, but this is a nice story compared to what some of the stories were. And the reason why I wanted to draw this little red ball, this little girl, was not to show the horrendous nature of what boarding school systems were, but to also show that these children survived, and they loved, and they did their little ways. I drew a mountain at one point, and I talked about my grandmother walking that mountain. And I'll just segue away from art for a minute, because that's how I am. But I drew this mountain, and my grandmother was telling me at one time, they climbed that mountain. And I was a kid, and I was like, why would you climb a mountain? You know, okay, Grandma, you know, what do you climb? She said they used to climb that mountain as high as they could before they knew what time they had to be back, otherwise they'd be punished. And punished in boarding school is a lot of different things, depending on how real you want to be. You know, there were hot boxes at boarding schools, and they were used up until the 40s. So they went up to the top of this mountain and they climbed. And if you go to Stewart's Indian School, that mountain has got to be a good 10 miles away. And I was like, are you kidding me? You used to walk that? I go, why? Why would you do that? You know? And she's all, because they wanted to see if they could see home. You know, and it's those kind of stories that we get to tell when we're artists. This is a bulletin board. If you ever went through Highway 20, you may have seen this bulletin board. So my tribe asked me to do a bulletin board on water conservation. And when I looked for the word drought, I couldn't find it. So I looked back further and still nothing. I went back to the time of my grandma and went back through the collective linguistic memory of about 250 years generational. I found words for flood, many words for different types of rain, but no word for drought. No word for drought in 200 years. Think about the magnitude of this. How do you explain drought to a people that have never experienced it? You don't. You fight like hell to make sure that little water, chine kuksa, is the only word that you use. So when there is little water, every drop counts. And this was up for about a year, I think. Okay, so a little bit more on contemporary art in Native America. So what I've been able to do now is I've taken some of the things that I've learned with drawing. So originally I started out as a graphic artist in community college, and then realized, like Eric said, I didn't want to draw the same line for the rest of my life, because only 5% of the graphic artists actually make it to where they're actually drawing and making new things. So I went into museum studies, and because my mom said, you will not become an anthropologist. I was like, okay. Apparently anthropology is that which we despise or something. But so I went into museum studies, and then I came home. I left San Francisco State University and came home to be the NAGPRA assistant, which is the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act. So essentially what I did is I put all of my museum studies stuff, and I used it to do the collections and how we respond to the collections. But I put all my art and my museum installations and stuff, and I just put it on the back burner, and I became this great environmental director for 24 years. So I've been an environmental director for 24 years. Recently, in these past couple of years, I've been able to use my contemporary art, which is the way I unwind. I draw in the morning, or I bead in the morning. I wake up at around 4:30 and I start drawing or beading. And then I unwind at night by drawing. Especially during COVID, because there was so much going around in Indian country, so many deaths, that I think all of us as artists responded to it in some way, shape, or form. And mine was to do more art. The pictures became really bright, and they, when it first started happening, I had posters made called Wash Your Hands. And it was a basket pouring out water, and I sent it all over Indian country, basically. And if somebody sent me some money for mailing, I threw some more out there and mailed more off. So they went all over California, all the way over to Arizona. And I paid for it through my own and just sent them out. And everybody was like, oh, during COVID, they were like, oh, you're so good. You're so good. I was like, no, I'm not. I can't afford to lose any more people. We had so many deaths during the pandemic, I couldn't afford to do it. My mental health said no. And so I started curating and put together an exhibit called Gathering Time at the Grace Hudson Museum. If you got to see it, that was my exhibit. So I had artists that I invited. It wasn't a call to art, it was artists that I invited. And I wanted to put pomo art in response to the pandemic and introduce us out to the world as artists. I went on to curate a couple of other shows over in Miwok territory, Birds of a Feather, Afterburn, a couple of other ones. I also got to work on the Jules Tavernier Meet the Olympe Pomo at the Met and the De Young Museum. I was one of the guest curators for that. And so I was able to take, I still do my art, don't get me wrong, I still do my art. We all do. But we're trying to figure out how to put ourselves out there more. And not necessarily ourselves individually, but push Native American art out there to show people the beauty of what our people are and to change perspective. I am on the De Young curating team for the revisioning of the Native American galleries. There's 5 galleries in the De Young Museum in San Francisco, and I'm on that revisioning. It should open in 2025. And initially I was approached and said, do you want to be on this curation team? And I was like, I don't have any letters behind my name, because I don't. And they were like, no, it doesn't matter, you have a pretty good reputation. I was like, okay. And so they took me in there, and I'm sitting there walking around with the curation team, and they're like, so what do you think of this place? What do you think of it? And I go, do you want my honest answer, or do you want me to lie to you and make you feel good about it? Because one of the ladies there was one of the people that put together that exhibit. And they were like, no, tell us the truth. And I said, this is beautiful work made by a lot of dead people. And that's what it is. Until we, as artists, tell the story and revision it, much like the California curriculum for the education programs, until we have a voice in revisioning and reintroducing ourselves as contemporary, here today people, we're not doing our jobs. And I do this in the environmental field all the time. I'm like, please listen to us, we're still here, you work for us, we work for you, to EPA all the time. I fight. So all I do is policy on EPA now, it feels. But now on an artistic level, we are now presenting ourselves in the manner that we want to be seen. And I think that's where contemporary Native American art is going. And that's why you're here. Because as educators, as people that deal directly with our children, because it's my children are in their 20s, by the way, because I'm in my 50s. So my children are in their 20s. My youngest just turned 18. They are now in that area that you're teaching. And for us to come in here and give you a well-rounded perspective on the different facets of Native America, and especially here in Pomo country, California Indians, where people don't think we exist anymore, that's why we're here. That's why I'm missing my best friend's opening. Because I want to make sure that you guys have a perspective, because it's my children you're teaching now. And I want to make sure that you understand, number one, that we are still here. We're not Plains Indians. You guys are teaching, and I say you in the bigger picture. Not pointing to anybody. No. You're in Willits, where people don't even realize there's Pomo country has 26 tribes. And we range from the eastern part of Lake County all the way to the coast. In Mendocino County, there are 13 tribes. People don't even realize that we're here. They see a casino big time, but they don't associate it with the people that are actually here. They don't associate it with the tribes. During the pandemic, we had 22 deaths in one tribe. Now, in the larger sense of the world at large, that's nothing. When you have tribes that are between 400 and 1,000 members, that's everything. That number is huge. Now during climate change, we have had 8 deaths in Pomo country, suicides, within the past 5 years from the climate change miasma. And as artists, we are pumping out not just these vibrant pictures, we are trying to reconnect our children and our people to who they are also. Because if they know who they are, they know that we'll survive. Because we've been here too long and we've already gone through different things. And I like to say environmentally, I tell stories once in a blue, but we have a lot of, I'm gonna get real serious on you guys now. Sorry. We have a lot of stories and mythologies and songs that talk about climate change. And our art is directly dealing with climate change because we are trying to show people they need to get back out into the wilderness. When you look at Eric's work of the seasons, of the full circle, that's not just us documenting a calendar. That's us giving it to our children and saying, these are the times that you pick. These are harvest times. Get back out there with me. When Corinne is teaching a basket class, she's not saying, here is how you make a basket, worship me. She's saying, here are the tools that you need to keep your children safe. That's what baby baskets do. And so when we're talking about these stories and these things that we have, we know that we're going to survive. We do. We're going to survive climate change. Initially, people thought it was white people. That was what the great change that was coming. No, it's climate change because it's affecting us all. We know we're going to survive. We don't know how and we don't know who. And that's what we as artists, that's what we as culture bearers, that's what you as educators need to put out there. Because these kids need hope. And we need to make sure that we give it to them however it gets to them. Thank you.
I had a quick question. What is your medium? Is it acrylic or?
No, it's my phone. It literally is. I wasn't kidding. They're called finger doodles. I draw them on my phone. It is a free application
Okay.
called Sketch.
Huh.
And it's a free app because I don't like to pay for nothing. And I draw each one of these pictures on my phone. So they expand, they go up to 400 zoom, so they can, they grow.
Are you using your finger or?
Yeah, I'm using my finger.
Ah, cool.
And everybody has told me to change the name of them because they're called finger doodles. They're like, change the name of that already because you're taking the value away. And I was like, you know what? It keeps me humble. It does. It really does. And that's why I call it finger doodles, because I don't want people to think that I'm trying to be something that I'm not. Although I will say, unhumbly, I will say that what you're looking at here is the next generation of legacy artists.
Yeah.
I actually knew that because, like Eric said, when he was talking about he met that person for the first time and they were like, oh, you're Eric. I have the same thing. One of my favorite artists, Native American artists, is Judith Lowry. Judith Lowry wrote the book A Journey Home, and it talks about the Maidu children that ran away from boarding school. And she does these like 6-foot triptychs. I mean, she is all over the world. And she does these like really beautiful pictures in Maidu country. And she came to Eric's art expo one year to talk about her art. And she's like, oh my God, Mio, I've been following you on Facebook and I want to buy some of your pictures. And I'm like sitting there fangirling all over her. And I'm just like drooling. And I took a picture of her holding my work and I was like, I have arrived.
She came over to my table. She goes, Eric, Judith Lowry bought some of my work. She bought some of my work. And then after the show, Judith Lowry gave me a print on canvas of one of her pieces, and then
Of Harry
Okay.
Fonseca. I think
oh, was it? And then after I saw at a different show, and I presented it to her.
So,
Like to see her break.
Eric, do you have a workshop coming up at, in Middletown?
Yes.
I do. Yeah.
That
Oh, you should
series
put those
of,
thingies
Oh,
back on.
yeah.
of flyers
Yeah. What is it on the 11th?
next weekend.
Yeah.
That's Saturday.
Oh, next
Saturday.
That's like a 4-hour class on design.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
At the Middletown Arts Center.
Yeah.
So Eric will be talking about, and this is part of the Water Basket project. So if you go into Middletown, there are these two really huge water towers at the top of a hill. And the project is to create a pomo basket design that wraps around those so that you see it from the air and you see it from the side. Did I turn it off on my end?
I did.
Oh. So Eric will be teaching. I just taught one a couple of weeks ago, and Eric's going to be kind of taking them more into the design phase for that. Yeah, there's his. It's coming up. It's coming up.
Water basket.
Yeah, that's the water basket, and there's a call for proposals. It's due in December, and if you go on the Middletown, and it doesn't have to be native. The art has to be native driven, but the artist does not. So if you do know of some contemporary native or contemporary artists, have them go to the Middletown Arts Center website, and yeah.
Corinne, are you involved in this?
Yeah, I curated it. It's up. They're doing First Friday tonight.
That you're missing.
That I'm missing.
Go ahead, switch it. This is the Acorn conference that's going to be happening at the Grace Hudson Museum. We are all over the place, folks.
There's an open call for art associated with Acorns for that one.
Oh.
So
Yeah, and it's going to be, Sunday is open to the public. There's going to be things on Friday and Saturday that you need to sign up for, but Sunday is going to be the regular Acorn Day at the Grace Hudson Museum.
What weekend is that?
That one
Next
is
week.
November 10th, 11th, and 12th. Oh, yeah, next weekend.
What is in
Everything's next weekend. And then she
And Social
said
Workers
about
Day.
that.
Yeah.
This is this one is on view. If you liked my work and you want to see it in person, I also do bead work. I do beaded medallions. If you get on Instagram or Facebook, I always put the process because I teach beading. So I like to show the process of how it comes about. I have a show up. It's in the small gallery at the Middletown Arts Center, which I'm still angry about, but that's okay. It's in the small gallery. But it's
it
got
the
some
center
of my
gallery.
works. It's got some of my beaded hats. I did 2 beaded hats, and it's got about 8 of my pendants, as well as larger giclées of my digital art. And that's through January 8th at the Middletown Arts Center. But if you go to Eric's thing, if you sign up for Eric's thing, you can go over and take a look and be inspired.
It's a 2-for-1. Well, I want to be mindful of your time, and so we didn't have much time for questions, but I so appreciate everything that you all shared. It was wonderful, and thank you for sharing
So we
so
pretty
many
much
beautiful
missed the
images.
show. So
all the shows.
we're good for questions.
Okay.
My bestie will understand.
Forgive you.
it? He knows you're the
So do we have any questions? Janet, are there any questions?
There's just a lot of
online?
thank yous, and it was great listening to you. Dana Watson Crass said thank you to all. It was such a blessing to be here listening to you today. The Middletown Museum, they Middletown Art Center placed the information that you talked about, the call for proposals, and your workshop and the work that you're exhibiting, so they put that on the chat as well, and you covered that on these slides right now.
I guess I have one question. If you had advice for young artists, Do you have any, what advice would you give to any young artists starting out?
If it's what you like to do, then do it. It took me 15 years to get a job doing art. And it was the most rewarding thing to be paid to be an artist. And in anything that you like to do, but if, we're specifically talking about art, I want you to have that experience of doing something that you love and getting paid for it. I can't even explain what that felt like. It was just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable to be paid to do what you like doing, which you were getting yelled at in school for doing, And then, it kind of feels like having the last laugh. It's like, well, I get paid to do that now, But I think just take the advice of other artists, We've all been down that road where we had that struggle of being able to do our art, but we had to make a living doing other things. And so we've made mistakes and we found solutions to things. So don't feel embarrassed to share your art, because other artists that have been doing it a long time, they're just waiting to share their knowledge. All of them that I've known, and that's like where you'll get your best lessons. You'll learn a lot from instruction in class, but sometimes just talking to another artist, you'll hear something that you never heard before, and just stay with it. It'll be worth it.
I guess what I would tell a young person is that art is perspective, and young artists, you don't always have to have a reason behind your art. The thing with Native American imagery and art is that everybody expects us to have a reason for it. And sometimes you don't, especially new artists. I don't think that, I think sometimes that new artists don't do art because they think they have to have a message. And then it gets into, well, I'm urban, well, I'm res, or I'm this, I'm that. And then you lose your art. You lose who you are in it. As long as your art says something to you, then I would say just do it. It doesn't matter what it looks like. Art is perspective. I mean, certainly there's a lot of famous artists that you look at their stuff. If you have a touch of OCD, you look at their stuff and go, God, they couldn't stay within the lines. But there are other artists that are very fine line driven, like Eric, that, have, each little line means something, and I think it's just, I hate to, just do it, but I think it's more of do it for yourself. The whole idea of doing it for your people and stuff, that can come after you've explored what it is that you like. Then you can build in a message or a meaning. And most likely, as an artist, it starts to come to you anyways. You have to have some meaning behind what you put down on paper. Otherwise, it's not art, it's craft. So it'll come to you, but don't think you have to do it right off the bat. A lot of the young artists, especially in Crenshaw, a lot of those young artists were, like Ryan, is focused on gender and he's focused on blood quantum. And, it's like, okay, where's your non-angry art? Art, there's more to you than your blood quantum. There's more to you than, whether you're reservation or whether you're urban. There's more than that. What is the art that says who you are? So.
I'm just gonna go with theirs because it's the only thing that I would say is that you can get paid. I still don't. So, I'm never gonna get that feeling probably because my art is different than their art. I can't make prints. I can't reproduce it. And when I add up the time, when I sell cradles, This actually last weekend that I went to the Artist Expo was the first time that I ever sold anything else, or even tried to sell any baskets. That was weird because I've been making baskets for a long time. I do it because I love it. I make art because I'm driven, and I'm gonna cry. I didn't know this was gonna make me cry, because I love to. God, maybe it's my OCD. I love to make order out of chaos, and I go out and I wild harvest, and that's chaos, and then I make it into an orderly fashion, and I plan and time manage, and then I create, and then that creation connects to culture, like in a real way. You put a baby in it, or you put acorns in it, or you put walnuts in it, or you harvest plants in it. I don't ever expect to get paid to do what I do, except for seeing people create art is very powerful for me. Like, it is, I hear their stories, especially Eric. I've heard, like, I follow him like a groupie, I swear, talking about how hard it was, for him to come up against people saying you shouldn't be doing that, you shouldn't be selling your culture in that way. And he talks about his predecessors who had it even harder, So just to see young people representing who they are, whether it looks native or not, it's their lived experience. And I worked with Ahmad for a while, and we did a lot of art. We were doing art. That wasn't my real job, but we were just doing art anyway. And that's what I do a lot. So do it because you love it, because you want to do it, because it helps you express what you're feeling at that moment. There's a quote that says, art isn't about showing what the world looks like, it's showing what you look like to the world. So try different mediums. Don't be afraid to fail. If you think your art's not beautiful, go to any museum in the world and see anybody else's art, and you'll be like, oh, I'm not so bad. I'm pretty good. I'm doing good. So I think just be driven. If that's your calling, do it. If you need to set it aside for a time, then set it aside. That's also part of the culture, is knowing when to create and when not. There's seasons for everything. So just keep creating and keep sharing, and look for mentors, because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of artists, a lot of indigenous artists. I always would joke that when I was younger that I was going to live through a renaissance. And I see it. I am living through renaissance. I'm living through a renaissance of art. I'm living through a renaissance of basketry. I'm living through a renaissance of culture. So you guys are all lucky because you're also living through renaissance.
Woo!
That seems like the perfect place to end. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you all.
Yay.
Thank you.